inspiration. Radyo-katipunan, down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo-katipunan, the voice of the Blue Eagle. The Jesuit Hour. Get to know the Jesuits. Discover their spirituality, their history, their ministries. The Jesuit Hour. Anything Jesuit, everything Jesuit. The Jesuit Hour.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ear.
Do you long for a good spiritual read? Or for literature that not only feeds the mind, but nourishes the soul as well? Do you want to be inspired, feel positive and hopeful about life? Then read The Windhover, the official magazine of the Jesuits in the Philippines. Written by Jesuits and their lay partners, The Windhover features real stories about the Jesuits and their various ministries. Be inspired. Be blessed. Subscribe to The Windhover. For inquiries, call the Philippine Jesuit Aid Association at telephone numbers 426-6001, locals 4890 or 4892. Once again, Philippine Jesuit Aid Association, telephone numbers 426-6001, locals 4890 or 4892.
Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atin mista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng pera. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, katipunero sugo, todo sa kayod, punong at tulong. Lipad na Blue Eagle, galing hiding at tigil. Blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan.
We are now on YouTube. Watch all of our live episodes plus exclusive content in our channel at Radyo Katipunan FM. Don't forget to click subscribe and hit the bell to get the latest updates.
Jescom Music Ministry, your daily dose of inspiration. Follow jescom.ph on Spotify and Jescom Music on YouTube. We are also on iTunes and Deezer.
Palalimin ang kamalayan sa mga isyong napapanahon. Makisangkot at makiisa kasama ang simbahang lingkod ng bayan. Ang Socio-Political Apostolate ng Kapisanan ni Jesus. Ito ang Kwentuhang Bayan mula alas 11 ng umaga tuwing Biyernes dito lang sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Dahil naniniwala kami na posible ang isang mas mabuting lipunan at maaari itong simulan sa isang kwentuhan.
Get your daily dose of inspiration through our music. Follow Jescom.ph on Spotify and Jescom Music in YouTube.
Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalik. pagpipilitan pa ba at tama? Buhay atin misa, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng pera.
Let us understand mental health and explore how we can take care of our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Welcome to your weekly slice of mental health tips and tidbits with Pat and B, here on MindEd.
Sa'yo sumisilong kapag ang puso ko'y pagod.
Your weekly slice of mental health tips and tidbits. My name is Pat.
And this is B. I am just a letter. Welcome to MindEd.
Hello.
I was-
so consistent na tayo. Weekly na talaga kasi last week meron tayo.
Nag-double duty ako this week, Patrick.
Kasi nag-host
Yeah.
ka din ulit.
I joined Maxine, our little
last
sister.
Right, correct. Oo.
So
Nakita ko
yun.
yung call for help niya. So,
Oo, parang
Oo.
it's my turn naman na. It's our turn naman na
oo
para
nga
dumalaw
naman.
sa
Kamusta?
show niya.
Kamusta kagabi?
It was fun. Well, definitely different. Si James litong-lito kasi hindi niya alam kung ano show na yun. Kasi si Sir Noel was there also.
Also, oo nga.
Yeah, so parang it's like New Wave meets Level Up meets
caps.
MindEd. So
Oo.
parang yun. So parang masaya naman. It was a great episode. We had Direct Dan Griegas.
Mhm.
So it takes me back to my my estudyante days, my filmmaking days. Yeah, kasi my thesis kasi nung college was the present situation of digital filmmaking in the Philippines.
Mhm.
And if I would count if I would do the math, wow, ang galing ko sa math. If I would do the math, siguro nag-uumpisa noon si Direct Dan when I was like doing my ang tawag dito, my thesis. Yun.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a fun fun episode naman. So thank you, Max. Shout out to Max.
Shoutout. Sana nanonood ka ngayon para supportahan mo din kami kasi sinuportahan ka namin. Joke lang. Okay lang.
Why super supportive naman sa atin ni Max every time na tayo may
Exactly.
call for help.
Oo.
Nandiyan din sila. So yun. Anyway, yeah. So inumpisahan ko na.
Okay.
Yun
Yeah,
yung
pero I
highlight
mean,
of my
other
week.
than
Yeah.
that, how else have you been over the past week?
It was a crazy week, to be honest. Monday pa lang, it was a very emotional week na. Dami nangyari. Ay, teka, nag-overshare ba ako?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna think,
No.
I was thinking parang, pwede mo ba sabihin? You can share or?
Off-air na lang siguro. But,
Wow.
but I can share the gist of it. Na parang, it has something to do with like the work transitions na nangyayari. So, June is actually the transition month.
Oh my,
So, daming feelings.
I'm sure.
Pero hindi natin siya ipoproseso dito.
Oh naman.
Yeah,
That's what
and
you
then-
think. No, I'm joking. Oh naman. Sure.
Oh no, nga pala ikaw mag-lead ng episode today.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then pero actually maraming like highs and lows this week for
Yeah.
me. So it was I'm still grateful. Like yun naman ang prayers for every every evening, every day.
Mhm.
Like, super grateful man talaga. Yeah. So, exciting
I'm
stuff
glad. I
happening.
mean, regardless of the parang, I guess, what is it? The toxicity. Not toxicity eh.
It's a
Parang,
good kind, I
it's a
guess,
good,
of
yeah. I
toxicity.
mean, there's a busyness. So, I mean, despite
Yeah.
like the drain or the strain that the busyness brings,
Uh-uh.
there's direction and there's clarity. And that's,
Mhm.
that's rarely ever a bad thing,
Of
if at all. Which is good.
Oh, it depends naman din kasi how you look at it, I
Absolutely.
guess. Yeah,
Correct.
so yay. Hola to Justin. We miss you.
Yeah, Just, hi.
I hope
Miss
everything's
you.
better now.
Yes, especially with the thing
Yeah,
that you mentioned that we can't mention right now, but we're praying for you. Just know.
of course, of
Uh,
course, of course. Anyway, over to you.
okay, ako, kamusta ba ako? Over the past week, I don't know, the last episode kind of really stuck with me. It's something I think I've has come up for me in my head and in some of my discussions even with some people. Not necessarily clients, but just friends na parang key takeaway talaga dun is ano eh, it's one thing to have friends and loved ones to support you, but it's really another thing. Parang what really pushes you further is when you know what's important to you, really. And yung syempre isa pang key takeaway done is
Hmm.
whether you think you can or you can't doesn't matter. You just
Just
do.
do.
Yeah.
Agad meron ba
Uh,
tayong latag nung episode
Oo.
last time? Ganito
Syempre.
pala pag consistent, no?
Exactly. Meron tayong continuity, ba? No, but seriously, it has been such a significant thing, I think, and it's been a very powerful anchor, and
Hmm.
it's nice kasi often I get a lot of my parang my refresh or my insights from having these conversations, these discussions with the guests that we have. So I'm super grateful.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dr. Albert Alberto Antonio Jr. I'm not sure
Hmm.
if you're watching now, but we remember you and we miss you. Agad, agad, agad. Oo.
Agad-agad, clingy tayo.
Kilig tayo eh. But generally, apart from that, work's been busy-ish kasi there are lots more, I guess, like programs that are being requested of me. I don't know, I guess it's the time of the year. Parang I think mid-year kind of really
Mhm.
just brings in a sense of like adjustment for people or like
Okay.
a sense of clarity around
Okay.
I'm not doing really that well and stuff. And that I guess that brings me to the topic that we that we chose for today. And it's also a
Hmm.
callback to, if you remember, a couple of not weeks but a couple of episodes ago where we
Hmm.
had parang pandemic season 2,
Two.
tama ba?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. The
where
group
we had
therapy.
sila, yeah, the group therapy where we had sila Sir Noel. Hi Sir Noel,
Yes.
Max,
Lester also.
Cholo, Lester also,
Cholo, yeah.
Justin, and parang I think what's one of the things that stuck out for me was si Sir Noel was really kind of feeling the whole blah, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you see
Yeah.
the promo that we had for this episode, diba? Parang I feel blah. Actually, yun din yung caption natin for the episode today.
Mm-hmm.
And parang it kind of brought this inquiry up in my head na parang are people kind of falling into a sense of depression, like an actual like clinical depression
Yeah.
in the times that we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself that parang it can't be that everything is clinical, and we forget, or parang for a moment there I kind of forgot that mental health is a spectrum. It's not just I'm completely okay, or I'm
Okay.
happy and I'm down and I'm sad and I have
Mm.
major depressive disorder. There's an area in the in between. And so there's also this post from the New York Times, pa yun naman sabihin siguro, no, na
Yeah.
kind of came out over the past couple of months that became, I guess, super relevant to this whole topic. So
Right.
it reads, So the author says, at first I didn't recognize the symptoms that we all had in common. So friends mentioned that they were having trouble concentrating. So symptom number one. Colleagues reported that even with vaccines on the horizon, they weren't necessarily excited about 2021. A family member was staying up late to watch a specific movie that I can't really mention here. Again, even though she knows the movie by heart. And instead of bouncing out of bed at 6 a.m., I was lying there until 7 playing a game on my phone. And it wasn't burnout because we all still had energy. It wasn't depression because we didn't necessarily feel hopeless. We just felt somewhat joyless and aimless. And it turns out that there's a name for it. That's the technical psychological term for this blah that we're feeling is called languishing. Say it with me.
Okay.
Languishing.
Languishing. Spell it with me.
L-A-N. Joke lang. Okay. No, but I mean, does that kind of, have you ever felt yourself, or I mean, I know you're pretty self-reflective and very self-aware. So, you know, the question is, have you ever found yourself in that kind of blah? Not just, you know, over the pandemic, but like in your life, na parang, I'm not completely burnt out. I still have energy, but I just feel, diba?
Meh.
Or you found yourself kind of defaulting into specific patterns or particular habits just for wala lang kasi ito na pwede ko talagang gawin. And I didn't and you didn't feel particularly optimistic about how things are gonna go this year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you felt?
Yeah, I mean, although thanks for saying that I am self-reflective.
You are.
But yeah, thank you. But I think the term that I use is not really blah, or it's not really parang meh. I think it's more autopilot. That's what I use. Na parang yun nga eh. You're not necessarily like excited about things, particularly happy about things, and you're not really feeling depressed about like what's happening, or you're not really super frustrated about what's happening. It's just that.
Yeah.
But you're still functioning, you know what I mean?
Yes. Exactly.
You're still functioning, you're still doing the things that you should be doing or you can do.
Yeah.
But it's just that I think it's autopilot kasi the passion is not really there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, siguro it's there somewhere, pero hindi siya yung parang right behind it. Like, it's intentional that you're doing these things. It's not intentional anymore. It's just like automatic.
Yeah.
Yung para may magawa lang or para matapos lang.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. So, yeah, there are cases like that. Like, may mga episodes din tayo na ganyan.
Yeah.
And I think it's so, is it normal? I mean, you tell me.
Absolutely. I think so. I mean, so when the pandemic started, everybody was pretty much on like high alert or in a state of, you know, just immediate action because the immediate need was just pure survival. You know, there were all sorts of things that we needed to be mindful of, or all sorts of routines that we needed to start developing for ourselves. And, you know, that brought on some sense of stress and some sort of, some form of, ano ba, parang, that tension. But then as we started to get used to where we are, the tension kind of didn't naman dissipate, but it kind of became chronic, or it became sustained. And so parang natawa ko kasi we started to feel anguish, or some sense of like not existential anguish, but just anguish in general over our situations in the beginning of it. But because the anguish was prolonged, or it's long anguish, naging languish. No, but okay, yun yung that's the technical term. It's the an acute state of anguish, which was in the beginning, but has become the chronic state of languishing.
Okay.
Ano siya, so I think that pretty much encapsulates really what sila Sir Noel were describing as the state of being. Kasi, I mean, we know Sir Noel. He's a pretty functional person. But of course, he's, and as we all are, bringing all sorts of feelings of parang, kailan ba natatapos to? And I think I was particularly feeling that coming up to my vacation over the past couple of weeks na parang, I just really felt the need to get out. Because, the short story, di talaga kami nakakalabas ni Chai at all. Like we don't get to go to the groceries. We don't get to go to parks. We only ever really go out to maybe visit Chai's family or my family, and that's not even very often. It's every couple of weeks. So parang nearly 26 out of 30 days in a month. Ay, di lang actually. Like 28 days out of 30. So ano yung math doon? 14 over 15. Nearly more than 90% of the month, we're just at home. We go to sleep and we wake up in the same place, and parang we're confined to this space. And so I was really feeling the need to parang I want to like see the ocean. I want to see some trees. I want to see more greenery and so on and so forth. And so, it's been a thing. So, now, syempre, this is not an episode where we just kind of get to, can I even say the word on air? No. Be and moan about what's going on. But I guess the value that we can bring to our viewers today is the optimism that there's a way out of languishing. So languishing is part of the spectrum of mental health. That is the leaning a little bit towards the depressive side. So if you think about it like a scale, it kind of tips the scale towards the low and mentally unhealthy side of mental health. But there's an opposite kind of aspect to languishing, and the opposite of languishing is flourishing.
Right.
So flourishing is the peak, or what positive psychology this defines as the peak of well-being. So this is when you have a strong sense of meaning, a mastery, and mattering to others. So languishing and depression is the plateau, if ever, or the valley, like the low valley of ill-being, the opposite of well-being. So that's where you feel drained and worthless. And so again, languishing is the middle child of mental health. It's the void between depression and flourishing. So it's the absence of well-being. It's not that you're ill being. It's just purely absent. You don't necessarily have symptoms of mental illness, or you're not diagnosably, it's not even a word, you're not diagnosable of a mental illness, but you're not exactly like the ideal picture of mental health either. You're functioning but not functioning at full capacity. So this comes from a research done in 2002 from a positive psychology researcher named Corey Keyes. This publication is available online. But so the benefit of, number one, the benefit of being able to identify the fact that, there is this, there's a name for the blah that you're feeling is, number one, it's helpful to identify. This is part of the whole like self-knowledge or self-understanding aspect of therapy, or, moving towards self-development.
Do we have tips on how to recognize or how to identify?
Okay. So when you're able, so I think we kind of had a long form kind of definition of it, but like when you feel not optimistic but not completely hopeless, when you feel aimless but not stuck, when you feel like you're in autopilot but still kind of moving but not necessarily moving forward, when you're still able to do the things that you need to do to take care of yourself and need to do to take care of your responsibilities, but it feels a little meaningless, then you can be a little certain that that's like a state of languishing.
Okay.
So
would you say, sorry, Pat. Would you say that it's, how would you categorize it? Like, is it normal? Is it good? Is
It's
it
absolutely normal.
dangerous?
I don't find as a behavioralist or behaviorist. Naman, hindi ko nga man lang alam yung term eh. But as a person who kind of places a priority on action and behavior,
Right.
an emotion or a state of being is only ever dangerous if it influences you or moves you to behave in destructive ways, either destructive towards yourself or destructive towards other people.
Okay.
But yeah, generally it's okay. It's normal. Any
Mhm.
emotion that you feel, lol, and this is like the wokest, most progressive thing you can say as a psychotherapist. But everything you feel is valid. Everything
Okay.
you feel is real, but not everything you feel is factual. It's valid.
Okay.
It comes from somewhere, but it doesn't necessarily represent the full picture or the full factual
Right.
picture of the reality that you live.
But what if you stay in that state for too long?
So they found that a prolonged more prolonged state of languishing does increase the risk of developing or falling into depression, like actual clinical
Right.
depression. So maybe that's where we kind of get into now. So
Right.
wait lang, saan ako? I lost track there. Ayun, sorry. I was
Sorry.
saying na parang one of the helpful things about learning that there's this middle ground is giving a name to it. You know, sometimes that's the utility of labels, is because there's some sense of like not finality, but there's this sense of like clarity around where you are.
Control. Yeah.
Some sense of control. So there's an antidote to languishing.
Okay.
So there's this concept called flow, and so this flow is one of the things that is very well researched in positive psychology, along things like motivation, along things like values. And so flow is that, I think the best way to describe it is, if you remember the movie Soul,
Yeah.
it's when you're in the zone.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
kind of like when you get when you find yourself in the zone. Diba? I mean, if you remember, or ikaw, if you can think about the last time you were in the zone, like things kind of, sorry to use the word again, but it seemed like it just kind of flowed. And you know how there's like a difference between things just flowing and things being on autopilot.
Yeah. There's a very thin line there, eh.
That's
like
true.
being an autopilot. Kasi parang when you're in the zone, it's like everything is kind of mindless because you're doing it like pinupulso mo. Diba? Pag ganyan. So kapag ganyan, it's like you're too like relaxed, or you're too parang almost autopilot but not quite. There's a sense of pagiging automatic, I guess. Doon sa flow or dun sa zone. So there's a very thin line. So just like wondering, or can we tackle it now or later? But I'm just wondering, like, how would you distinguish like being in the zone with the flow versus being on autopilot?
I think autopilot is more characterized by a sense of mindlessness.
Okay.
Where things are kind of happening, where you're lightly involved or engaged in them, but they just kind of happen. Whereas flow is you're fully mindfully focused on a task, and it just kind of, and everything kind of just melts away.
Okay.
Like time and space, or your sense of time and your sense of like space kind of just melts away. And you're really just kind of like ebbing and flowing with the thing that you're doing. So for me, that happens most often when maybe I'm playing music, or maybe I'm playing a video game, or when I'm fully focused on just spending time with my child.
Right. Maybe.
Sure.
Sorry. Yeah,
Go.
I'm thinking like probably one of the, correct me if I'm wrong, or I'm thinking maybe the difference then, if you're on autopilot, you don't like get something in return, or you don't feel anything in return. But when you're
Yes.
in the zone, it's like may return. There's this joy
Yeah.
or satisfaction or
Yes.
feeling of like lightness and happiness
Exactly.
and something like that. No? Yeah.
Out of curiosity, B,
Yeah.
you mentioned that you felt, or that there were some stuff that you felt like you were on autopilot on.
Mm.
But of course, I'm pretty sure that there are some things that you felt some a sense of flow with. Can you give
Right.
me an example, like personal example, na
Which one?
kung saan- of both? Ano
Of
yung
both?
autopilot like experience mo, and what is your
Mm.
flow experience naman?
Okay. That's easy actually. Kasi very practical. Eh. The autopilot comes in when I'm on work mode and
Mhm.
I know I have a lot of tasks
Yeah.
on my list, like checklist, ganyan. And then kalkulado siya, like, okay, I have to accomplish this in an hour, ito 30 minutes, ito 45 minutes. So, medyo
Yeah.
like, it's like sort of clockwork-ish siya,
Yeah.
especially for the routinary tasks that we
Yeah.
have to accomplish for the day or the deliverables for the week. So, very calculated. Whereas, so flow, you really cannot predict it. One example, and sila, I think our friends in jescom, alam to.
Mhm.
Sila Father Nono, alam to. Hello, Father James Cascon. He's watching.
Nandito ba siya? Hi, Father James.
Nasa
Ay, oo nga.
comment.
Oo nga,
I saw
nakita ko.
her.
Yeah.
Ayan. So, so parang I guess, the flow that I experience is every time I write scripts for the concerts that we
Yeah.
have with the JMM family.
Yeah.
Ano siya parang autopilot in the sense na parang hyper-focus.
Right.
Right. Kasi, okay, sa yoga kasi there's like soft focus, hard focus,
Right.
hyper focus. So,
Okay.
doon ako sa parang zoom in talaga doon sa ginagawa ko. But the difference nga nun is that when I'm writing it, nakakapagdasal ako. And even before I get into writing,
Mhm.
may routine ako na parang prayer muna. And it's the flow, I think, starts from there.
Sure.
Yung slowly easing into the task on hand, or the zone itself, like entering into the zone. Whereas pagka autopilot, pagka work mode, start, finish, pause, start, finish, pause. As in, it's like, ganyan talaga.
Right.
Pero pagka flow, parang, zoom, tsaka walang time.
Yeah.
Walang time. And yung return niya, it's like, yun nga, may satisfaction.
Yeah.
Daming tears, my God. Retreat level tears.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and then after, when you get to finish it, I mean, it's just create one script, yan, or one episode, yan.
Yeah.
Versus like the many tasks na naka-accomplish mo, mas
Yeah.
may satisfaction dito.
Yeah.
Sa flow, because you
Yeah.
really poured your heart, your soul, your mind into it. Whereas during the work, it's just really functional.
Yeah.
And nare-remind ka lang na parang, why are you doing this? Because I love what I do, ganyan.
Yeah.
And then parang, it's like an afterthought na. Whereas pagka the flow, it like
Yeah.
everything is there. Your entire being, you just let it flow there.
Exactly.
Nagamit yung flow.
Galing. Hindi, at saka tama
Yeah.
din eh. Parang there's also like the sentimental component, or a sentimental difference between like being on autopilot and being in a state of flow, where you know, when you're on autopilot, it feels numb. You know, you feel kind of distant. I mean, you're involved and you're engaged, sort of, but you're not really invested. Whereas when you're in the zone, or when you're flowing, you really kind of, as you've put it, you really kind of pour your heart into it. And so, and you know, and there's a lot of benefits from being in flow. So, but the thing is, what's kind of been what's been born out of being in like a work from home kind of setup, and maybe you can attest to this, is that it's so easy to just kind of get interrupted. And you know, that's that fragmented attention or that fragmented focus is kind of what disrupts or hinders one
Mhm.
from getting into a state of flow. And so
Right.
I think the first practical tip, if ever, and this is something you've probably already started doing, is to really just give yourself a space or time, like setting boundaries where you can
Mhm.
be uninterrupted.
Mhm.
Just really allowing yourself to not even external interruptions, but also like with the tasks that you're involved in, instead of having so many different things that you kind of just switch in between and switch back and forth in between, just like really really
Yeah.
focus on this one thing. I think I remember you shared that you had like a practice of that even
Mm.
before the pandemic, where you had parang where you do not,
Oo.
or was it during the pandemic na you don't respond to emails at a specific time of the day, or you don't respond to calls or texts
Yeah.
na at a specific time of the day.
Yeah, it,
Tama
it
ba?
was, I mean, I did a practice even before the pandemic na
Yeah.
medyo ganun.
Mm-mm.
Mas naging strict lang talaga ako during the pandemic because of, yun na nga, the boundaries kasi like that we have to set for ourselves, especially we're all contained, like physically nakakalas. As you mentioned, diba? Create not just before kasi it was easier, I guess.
Yeah.
Kasi pag nasa house ka na, you're like super relaxed already. So,
Yeah.
nandun yung feeling of, I'm sorry, nandun yung feeling of nakakatamad mag-reply.
Yeah.
Or nakakatamad na magbukas ng email, di ba ganyan?
Yeah.
But when you're at home and you're working from home and you sort of kind of like you're just there with your laptop and everything, ikaw yung magdidikta when to stop.
Yeah.
So I guess yung the mindfulness of it all comes into place into play because of like you have to be conscious and you have to really decide na para okay, kailan yung end of day mo.
Mm-mm.
And when you say end of day, ano ibig sabihin nun? Can you still like entertain all ganyan? Or alam mo yun, just acknowledge siguro. Like, kunyari, may magtanong, yeah, okay, I'll check this tomorrow. I'm acknowledging your message. Kaya, ganun lang. But not necessarily, okay, I'm gonna open my laptop, I'm gonna check what can we do, ganyan. So, yun. I guess that's just the discipline. Not probably discipline na rin and a lot of self-love.
True. So, parang it's something like that's a choice that's easier to make when you're really intentionally choosing yourself or loving yourself. So, nice. Sobrang sakto nun.
Yeah.
Some years ago, and I guess this is just
wait,
something that,
ikaw naman.
ano? Sige, go. Ako naman, ano?
Mag-share ka rin. Like, when are you in the zone and when are you on autopilot? And describe the feeling.
Okay. Sige, fine.
You.
Siguro I feel most at autopilot in like an autopilot kind of mode when I'm doing so many different chores all at the same time. Like if I think about the parang, I mean, cooking is not a joyless activity naman for me. Like I enjoy cooking a lot of the time, but there's just some moments talaga na parang, I kind of finished up late with work, and so I'm responsible for nutrition in this. Well, not naman necessarily nutrition, but like feeding myself and my child and my wife. And so when I have to think about, okay, what am I going to make for Cassie and what am I going to make for me and Chai? And then, oh my gosh, I have to wash the dishes.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have to wash or clean up after myself for the yung pinag-chop-chopan ko ng gulay at lahat. It starts to kind of feel na parang, I'm doing so many different things. And yun nga, parang I don't feel myself investing into it because I also have to think about na parang, oh, how much time have I spent with Cassie and Chai today? I kind of want to bond a little bit. So it becomes so fragmented and it still kind of comes out okay. It's not as if naman hindi naman sobrang sama ng results, but my experience of it or my engagement in it kind of becomes a little, well, blah. But I find myself really in the flow, I think, when recent experience of that, if ever. Sometimes at work, when I find myself na parang when I'm focused on really attuning to a person that I'm working with, and I'm really trying to place myself in the person's shoes in terms of what this person is feeling and what this person is going through, and trying to bring that out of the person. I kind of lose sense of the time. The parang there might be so many things that I still kind of wanna, explore or go deeper into with somebody I'm working with, but then I realize parang, oh shoot, it's already like 7:45 and okay, I guess we'll have to pin that for next time. Sorry. Stuff like that. So but ano naman with family naman, like recent example is when we were out on the ocean and we were just on the boat and we were just kind of enjoying each other's company. We're making cuento and all of that. And so I'm really like emotionally invested into that. I'm really paying attention. And I'm not paying attention to my phone. I'm not anywhere else except with my family. And, parang all of a sudden, or the entire vacation itself, parang all of a sudden, wala na, tapos na. So, okay.
Yeah.
Diba?
Yeah.
So, minsan ganun din. Kayo, I mean, everybody who's listening, so we have about like live, at least on the channel, people like around a dozen plus people listening. When are you on autopilot and when are you in a sense of flow? And if there's anything that I can encourage you in, is really, if you want to get yourselves into a state of flow, is really give yourself some uninterrupted time. So, evidence for this. So some years ago, a software company in India tested a simple policy. So no interruptions on Tuesday and Thursday and Friday before 12 noon. So when engineers managed the boundary themselves, a little less than half had above average productivity. But when the company set quiet time, the no interruptions on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays before 12, more than about 60%, mga 65% of them achieved above average productivity. So a boost of like almost 20% in productivity for them. So getting more done wasn't just good for performance at work, because it's a factor in daily joy and motivation. And it's also good for a sense of progress. It's not just about because there was something magical about Tuesday or Thursday and Friday. The lesson is just, it's really helpful to set times or blocks for you where you're not interrupted by anything other than, not interrupted by anything, period. And you're just purely focused. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is focus on small goals. It's nice to be goal oriented, and it's nice to have, the bigger goal. But when you look at just completely general or big goals, sometimes it can seem very, very daunting. So one of the things that I've started doing with some of the students that I'm working with, especially the ones who have approached or are in summer vacation now, is I have them think about na parang some of their chief complaints, kasi I can say this naman, nobody knows is, I'm not naming names naman, but some of their chief complaints is that, it's summer vacation, I'm so bored, I can't go out, I can't visit my friends, I can't go out of town with friends, stuff I would normally do. I go to the gym, learn a new martial art, etc., etc. So I kind of get them to sit down and think about, okay, between now, at the start of summer vacation and at the end of summer vacation, what would you like to have accomplished? Is it about learning a new life skill? Is it about improving a specific relationship? Is it learning about more about what it is that you're studying, or doing something leisurely, and so on and so forth? And then I take those big goals and I chop them up into week to week goals. Like small things that they can, number one, small things that they can accomplish much easier in a specific time frame, but also small things that they can celebrate. So, yun, one of the things that you can do to transcend or overcome languishing is to really have those tiny triumphs, or even if it's finding a small game to try to kind of just do, or small milestones really. What would that look like for you, B?
I like the celebration part. The mini yays.
Yeah.
The mini yays. I guess it's sort of rin siya, reward for the self.
Yeah.
Sa akin, what I do, sometimes nauuna yung reward.
Okay.
Or I call it in my head, in my own routine, I call it conditioning. Because my day usually starts super early. Let's say, sabihin natin 5:30, 6:30. And I like doing yoga in the morning. More than, parang okay naman yung evening, pero parang mas gusto ko na morning siya. But after that, sige, get my coffee and whatever, ganyan. And then, pwede naman ako mag-work na.
Yeah.
Pero parang, no, I'm just gonna watch one episode of the series that I'm watching, or a sitcom or whatever. So, nauuna siya. And then, like, the small victories that I do, siguro pag kunyari, let's say, as mentioned, medyo kalkulado yung tasks ko. Ganyan.
Yeah.
If wala akong calls medyo iba yung pag may calls ka.
Yeah.
Pag wala masyadong calls, like, I just schedule my task for block talaga.
Yeah.
And then, I adjust, of course. I guess it's just one. I adjust. Kunyari, I allotted 45 minutes for task number 1. Natapos ko siya ng 30 minutes. So, meron akong 15 minutes. Depende dun sa next task. If the next task can wait naman and hindi naman siya time sensitive, okay, I'm gonna reward myself with probably half of the sitcom that I'm watching. or just really, alam mo yun, stand up, do like 5 minutes stretching, check up on like what's happening over here, there, or whatever. Like kung ano-ano nang gawin ko. And then sige, jump right back into it after 15 minutes. Ganyan.
Yeah.
Yan. Pero kapag yan, like I adjust. Ganyan.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what I do. But not very often. Hence, autopilot. It's autopilot.
So, maybe takeaway or maybe lesson here for you is to just do that more often.
Malapit na. Oh,
Transition month
magyayari
na
siya.
naman this month.
Magyayari siya parang half a day.
Okay. Yeah.
Pero hindi naman. Actually, on the contrary, parang mas kailangan ko maging mindful of those little victories kahit like a minute or two of just breathing lang talaga. Actually, that helps even if it's like a minute to just like close everything, look at something else, ganyan, the ceiling, or just close your eyes. Like a minute or two. Tapos, okay, game ka na. Kausap ko yung sarili ko. Mahilig ako doon. Kaya, okay, ready ka na. Game tayo. Okay, game. Bukas ulit lahat. Yun. Sometimes I do that. Ganyan. Yung hinga talaga.
Yeah.
So, there's a certain relief.
Yeah.
And a certain restart that's happening in your system. I don't know.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably you need to develop like more creative ways of having those mini yays. Overachiever tayo.
I mean, if it works, if it works, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I mean, definitely there's space for you to innovate there, and that's nice. Di hamak naman na we are a campus radio, although of course we have higher reach now than just the campus. Pero one of the principles, or ano ba, guidelines, if ever, that encourage not just the students but everybody to kind of look at attacking small goals. Is because when you think about just life in general, okay, what are my life goals? Parang hirap siyang isipin, diba? But and I've talked about this on the show, I think, before, but I like to divvy up life. So acceptance and commitment therapy looks at life from 4 interrelated but distinct dimensions or aspects. So there's personal growth. Lately I've kind of termed that as, survival or basic stuff. So things like your physical health, your emotional well-being, your spiritual life, or your spirituality and your spiritual well-being. So that goes with survival because that's the basic stuff. So that's one dimension. The other dimension naman is career or occupation. So the things that occupy you. So if you're a student, then it's definitely your academics. If you're working, then it's your job. It could be other things that are oriented towards earning an income. So those are the career or occupation stuff. So that's 2. 3 is your relationships. So everything that is outside of you, the interactions that you have with people apart from yourself. So your family, your romantic partner, your friendships, the people you work with, so relationships. And then the last one is leisure. Your hobbies, the things that you're passionate about that have nothing necessarily to do with basic survival, or hindi naman nothing, but I guess little to do, or it doesn't necessarily, it's not like an integral part of just pure survival. And so we believe, or in acceptance and commitment therapy, we believe that like a whole balanced life is being able to kind of take care of all 4 of those dimensions. So you can think about setting goals in each of those dimensions. You think about the physical health goal and make it specific. Of course, make it the SMART, diba? Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time bound. Tama ba? You think about your spirituality, like what would you be able to do to develop your spirituality? You think about your emotional well-being. What are things that you need to do to develop your emotional well-being apart from taking care of these dimensions? You think about work. What are your goals for work? Do you want to get promoted, and so on and so forth? For relationships, do you want to get a jowa? Lol. Do you want to improve your relationships or connections with the people at home, and so on and so forth? And then leisure. Is it just really about setting aside time for it? And then, you kind of look at all of the goals that you've listed down for all of these things, and you just really chunk them up, okay. Given my big goals for these, I can commit to doing this much for X and Y goal for this week, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah. So, dami ko sinabi. Magpa-pause muna.
Inhale.
I don't know. What do you think about all of these things?
Ang dami mong sinabi. Which
That is
part?
true. Any call outs or any highlights for you?
Sorry, what were the 4 nga? Leisure.
Sige. Testo.
I hate you, Patrick. Leisure. Personal. Or same lang ba yun?
Personal
Spiritual.
growth. Yeah.
Physical.
That's part
What's the
of
other
survival. Yeah. And emotional.
Emotional. Kasi when you were describing each one, I'm already like looking at my life. Agad.
The things that you need to work on.
Yeah,
no,
because I know you're gonna ask me eventually. So I was readying myself. Okay, here goes.
Kilala mo na ako, Bian.
Of course, we did say that I am the guinea for this episode. Yeah, so I guess.
And then, the last dimensions were career, and then the other ones relationships. So,
right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Actually, I do have a question about that. When you want to like work on these quadrants of your life, can you like? Is it advisable to like decide on it or work on it all at the same time, or do you advise that you focus muna on, or you focus first on like first quadrant depending on your priority?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. definitely worth a separate episode. Na, joke lang. Hindi naman. It depends. Parang the best way to think about this, or the best way to wrap your head around this whole like 4-quadrant thing, is you think about what it means for you to have a fulfilling and meaningful life. Like ano yung makeup, or ano ba? Yeah, what's the makeup of what the ideal meaningful life is for you? Is what, and this is completely subjective, right? So does a meaningful life look like high priority ang work, and then so what's the priority list here, or what's the prioritization here? So that's one way of attacking it. Na parang, well, my ideal life is I'm a good father, and so that necessitates a sort of like prioritization of relationships.
Right.
I am healthy, I am strong. Okay, so that means also that kind of follows from it. Or does being a good father mean that I'm a good provider, and then therefore that means there's a prioritization of work there. Or do I like to have fun? And so maybe it's about leisure. So that's one way of attacking it. The other way of attacking it is you reflect on the life that you have now.
Okay.
And it's still about thinking about what is ideal, but parang a juxtaposition, big word, between what is ideal and what is current. And then when you put that together, you notice or you observe what's missing. And therefore, I prioritize first what is missing. What are the gaps? So yun yung unahin ko.
Great
So,
answer.
Di na kita tatanungin kasi baka kulangan tayo
ng oras. Yeah, pero yeah, I actually do agree with the process that you shared advice. I do agree na parang kasi sometimes you tend to focus more on like certain things, and then you tend to neglect on certain things.
Exactly.
The others, which are supposedly equally important in your life, so for you to create that balance. So I copy paste retweet.
Tsaka ano din yan the honest answer to that, or there's no actual quantifiable answer to that, because it is actually very subjective based on the phase or the stage of development where you're at. When you're a family person, or when you're a family man, like me, everything else kind of starts to dwindle in priority, because I put the survival and the life of my child before my own fun. Not that I neglect it, but it's more important that I get to spend time with her, and that is fun in and of itself. But the traditional things that I used to find fun, I don't really necessarily have as much time for. Yun. So it's a very fluid and it's a very dynamic thing. Meron tayong question from the audience. Is there a permissible period wherein it is still normal that one is still in a state of languishing? Just a question which popped in. Sige. Anonymous question yun. Thanks.
Anonymous person.
No, sige nga, B, take a stab at that.
Wait, I have to understand the question again. I have to read it. Is there a permissible period wherein it is still normal that one is still in the state of languishing? I guess I would just copy your answer kanina.
Which is?
As long as it's not destructive, it's okay to stay there.
Yeah.
Kasi minsan baka yun din yung kailangan mo. You
True.
might need it as a form of rest. If you are, especially, I don't know, especially if you are a very like passionate person, and sometimes you just need like to take the rest, and maybe this is the type of rest for you to be in that space. But if you feel, again, I guess here comes like enter frame mindfulness, our favorite word. You have to be like kind of mindful. When is it too much already? When is it already destructive? When are you not liking yourself already when you're in that state?
Yeah.
But as long as it's not destructive, I guess it's okay.
Ang galing mo talaga.
Yes, Patrick.
Galing mo talaga. No, I completely agree.
Uh-huh.
If there's anything that I can or would add to that is
Mhm.
just the qualifier of for as long as it works for you. So, as with everything, not all emotional states or no emotional states are bad. They're all informative or representative of important information in your life. The languishing could be telling you na parang is informative or ano ba, resemblant of your dislike for the situation. And that's fine. For as long as the situation exists and you feel this way, then you don't like it. But I only ever look at emotions as calls to action. And the type of action advisably or ideally that you take from the information you get from your emotions should be actions that bring you towards meaning and fulfillment, or at least helps you get closer to what it is that you value and what matters to you. So, yeah.
Copy paste.
Bigat. Okay. So I think, just to kind of round out and wrap up the episode. So around 3 or 4 key highlights is number 1, hindi siya 3. Ang dami pala. Shucks, naisip ko lang. Number 1.
Synthesize.
Sige, kaya natin yan. Number 1, mental health is a spectrum. It's not that you're either completely well or you're completely ill. There is a middle ground. And the name for that middle ground, or the middle ground that leans towards the ill, is languishing. And languishing is completely normal. Everybody feels it. When you feel anguish and it's prolonged, that's what it's called. Number 2, there is a way out of languishing. Like, it's not a permanent thing, but it's also definitely something that you need to take action on. And the practical steps that we've prescribed here today is number 1, is to give yourself 3 pala. Number 1 is to help yourself get into a state of flow. Whatever it is that helps you get into a state of flow, you try to do it or experiment with it. One option is to give yourself uninterrupted time with things. And then the other one is to focus on small goals, or create bigger goals and then chunk them up into smaller ones so that you can celebrate the small wins that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I have something to add.
G, go.
Yeah. Find your flow.
Nice.
Find your flow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's the alternative title to today. It's I feel blah, find your flow.
Find your flow. Yeah.
Nice.
Right when we're about to end.
Galing, ha? Naitawid natin, ha? Wala tayong outline.
Meron tayong guide. Like, we have like a thing.
May reference.
There. And we have our experience and our stories. And yeah, thanks for this episode, Patrick. It's been a while since we had an episode that it's just
true.
us.
Yeah.
So
we forget
good job
yata
to
that we're
us.
experts in our own right. So it's nice to remind ourselves.
You are an expert. I'm just here.
We're experts. You're an expert guinea pig. Na, joke lang.
Of my life.
Joke lang.
My own terms.
No, but generally, yeah, I like being able to talk about positive psychology because again, like mental health or like psychology is not just about what makes you sick, but it's also about what makes life good and meaningful.
Yeah, let's do more of those because we haven't actually had a series about positive psychology yet.
That is
true. Could this be like series episode number 1?
Mag-research break tayo.
No.
Joke lang.
I'm pretty sure you have like some stuff there in your files or your like
actually mindfulness. The study of mindfulness is a big component of positive psychology. So yeah, definitely. We haven't had like a consistent like continuity of or string of positive psychology episodes, but we've done
Yeah.
a few. So
We've done a few,
yeah.
I guess. Yeah. Wala lang structure.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's do another one of like this. Not necessarily this,
We
but
should.
yeah.
We definitely should. Sure.
Mhm.
But
Right.
again, you're right. It was nice talking about this, and it's nice to be in front of you guys and talking about these things that we're passionate about. If you want more episodes like this, or if you want more topics like this, please shout it out to us on our episode comments, or follow us on YouTube and like our
Facebook,
Facebook
Instagram.
page, Instagram, all that jazz. This has been MindEd, your weekly slice of mental health tips and tidbits. My name is Pat.
And this is B. See you guys next week. Oh,
Bye,
happy
guys.
birthday to Kara. She's watching.
Hi, Kara. Happy
Happy birthday,
birthday.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Just. Be
thanks,
well
Patrick.
always. Thanks, everybody who watched. See you guys next
Bye.
time. Bye.
Oh, yeah, we're doing this.
Always.
Let us understand mental health and explore how we can take care of our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Welcome to your weekly slice of mental health tips and tidbits with Pat and B. Here on MindEd.
sa'yo